I'm Leela, 30 years old, and 5 months ago my sister accidentally added me to a family group chat called Real Family Only. 9112 messages. 8 years. They called me the charity case. They placed bets on when I'd fail. They celebrated when my marriage fell apart. My own mother wrote, and I'm quoting her exactly, "At least she doesn't have kids. One less grandchild to worry about." I screenshot everything, every single message. Didn't miss a period. Then I sent just one text. "Thanks for the receipts." What happened next at my grandmother's 75th birthday party? I don't think anyone in my family will ever forget it. Before I go on, if this story hits close to home, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you really feel it. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back 8 weeks to the morning my grandmother called about her party. My phone rang sharp at 9 that morning, cutting through the quiet of my small apartment. Grandma Evelyn's name lit up the screen. My heart skipped hard. She almost never called me herself. Family stuff always came through the group chat, the one I was sure they'd forgotten to add me to. I picked it up quick. "Grandma?" "Hi, Lila, honey." Her voice was warm but a bit shaky, like she was smiling through her years. "I'm having a party for my 75th. I want you there. No excuses now." My chest got tight, a mix of surprise and that old ache. "Of course, Grandma. I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world." We chatted a minute more about the date and how she was feeling that day. When we hung up, I sat on my bed, staring at the wall. The past 12 years hit me all at once. Every Saturday I'd drive her to those heart doctor visits, hold her hand in the cold waiting room, while machines beeped like the ones I watch in the ICU. Every Sunday I'd clean her house while she napped in her favorite chair. Late nights, when loneliness got to her, I'd sit right there beside her and just listen until she felt okay again. Grandma always held my hand a little longer, like she knew how heavy my days were. In my ICU job, I fight to keep strangers alive. I check their vitals, give medicine at just the right time, and stay calm when things turn scary. But with my own family, it felt like I was the one always showing up alone. Brooke, my younger half-sister, showed up for the easy parts. She'd come for Christmas pictures and post them on Instagram with big captions like "Family is everything" and lots of hearts. Her 38,000 followers loved every bit. I never said a word. What was there to say? The hurt stayed inside, quiet and deep. But this call from Grandma gave me a spark of hope. Maybe the party would be different. Or maybe it was just another chance for the pain to show up again. 5 days before the party, I dialed my mother from the break room at the hospital. My scrubs still smelled like antiseptic, and my hands were raw from washing them a dozen times during my shift. In the ICU, I could keep a dying patient steady with one steady breath and the right dose of medicine. But calling my own mom, my fingers shook a little on the phone. "Mom, it's Lila. Quick question about Grandma's party. What's the dress code?" "Oh, honey, just casual," she said, her voice bright like always. "Nothing fancy at all. Jeans and a nice top would be perfect. You know how Grandma is, simple and happy." I believed her, I really did. "Okay, thanks, I'll see you there." That afternoon, after my shift ended, I swung by the pharmacy, picked up Grandma's heart pills, and drove straight to Mom's house. The late sun made long shadows across the driveway. I parked, grabbed the bag, and let myself in the side door like I always did. Mom was in the kitchen, phone face up on the counter, chopping vegetables. She looked up with that quick smile. "Lila, you didn't have to come all the way over. Just dropping these off," I said, setting the white pharmacy bag down. "Grandma's new prescription." Before I could turn to leave, her phone buzzed. A text preview lit up the screen from Brooke. "Remember cocktail dress? Photographers coming at 5. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a dark stair. Cocktail dress. Photographers. Mom had just told me jeans and a nice top. Casual. I stood there frozen for half a second, the cold from the air-conditioned kitchen sinking into my bones. In the ICU, I could read a monitor and know exactly when a heart was about to stop. Right now, my own felt like it was skipping beats. I set the bag down quietly. "I'll see you at the party, Mom." She didn't even look up from the cutting board. "Drive safe, honey." I walked out without another word. Maybe she forgot, I told myself in the car, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Maybe she just got mixed up. But something icy had settled deep in my chest. The same cold I feel when a patient's family lies to me about how long the symptoms have been going on. The next evening, I did something I almost never do. I called Brooke. We weren't close. Same mom, different dads, different lives. Still, she was my sister. I wanted to believe that meant something. "Hey Brooke, it's Lila. Just calling about Grandma's party. Do you need any help setting up? I can come early if. There was a short silence, then a small laugh that didn't sound real. Oh, Grandma invited you too. The word too landed like a slap across the face. She called me herself, I said carefully, keeping my voice steady the way I do when I have to tell a family bad news. Huh. Brooke's tone went flat. I mean, it's a family thing, you know. I didn't know. That was the whole problem. My throat tightened. What does that mean exactly? Nothing. Forget it. I gotta go. Click. 30 minutes later my phone buzzed with a voice message from her. I pressed play, expecting maybe an apology or details about the party. Instead I heard Brooke's voice, muffled, clearly talking to someone else in the room. Oh my God, she's so annoying calling me like we're best friends or something. She acts like she's such a VIP just because Grandma likes her. I don't get what Grandma even sees in her. Laughter in the background. Then the message cut off. Another buzz. A text from Brooke. Oops. Sent that by accident. Don't mind it. Lol. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Don't mind it. 7 words. That's all she gave me after I'd heard her laugh at me with someone else. In the ICU I stay calm when alarms scream, and lives hang by a thread. But sitting alone in my quiet apartment, the hurt crashed over me like a wave I couldn't outrun. I thought about all the tiny cuts over the years, invitations that never reached me, dinners I only heard about later, photos where I was cropped out. I'd always told myself it was just family being messy. Now the cold feeling in my chest turned sharp, like something breaking. I wanted to believe Brooke was just having a bad day. Sisters say mean things sometimes, right? But deep down I knew this wasn't new. This was the first time the mask had slipped, and I had heard the truth underneath. And something told me that voice message was only the start of something much bigger and much uglier. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small apartment, the only sound the low hum of the fridge and my own heartbeat in my ears. 30 years old, divorced, living alone, working 58-hour weeks in the ICU because it was easier to fight for strangers' lives than to face my own empty one. In the hospital I could steady a crashing heart with the right medicine and a calm voice. Here in the dark, my own chest felt like it was cracking open. Grandma Evelyn was the only person in my family who ever made me feel like I truly belonged. She never looked at me like I was the leftover from Mom's first marriage that went wrong. When I was 13 and crying because all the other kids had dads at the father-daughter dance, Grandma showed up in an old suit and bow tie she'd borrowed from a neighbor. She had practiced the steps the day before so she wouldn't step on my toes. We danced the whole night, and for once I didn't feel invisible. Now she was 75. Her heart wasn't strong anymore. 3 stents, 2 close calls. I remembered the day she held my hand tight and whispered, "Promise me you'll be okay when I'm gone, Lila." The thought of losing her made my throat close up. If she was gone, I'd have no one. Not really. I thought about Grandpa's funeral 4 years ago. 175 people filled the church. I sat alone in the back row. No one sat with me. No one asked if I was all right. Mom was too busy letting Brooke and Aunt Sharon comfort her to even glance my way. That's when Grandma slipped into the pew beside me. She didn't say a word, just took my hand and held it until the service ended. Later she told me softly, "I write everything down, honey. You know who does what, who shows up." At the time I thought she meant shopping lists or pill times. Now, staring at the ceiling, I wondered if she meant something bigger. The memories kept coming, one after another, like patients rolling into the ER when you're already short-staffed. 3 years ago I found the texts from Ethan's coworker Lauren. 10 months of lies. I called Mom, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. "Mom, Ethan's been cheating. I don't know what to do." A long pause. Then, "Well, honey, you have been working a lot. Maybe if you'd been home more." I hung up. Brooke's comment came on Facebook the next day. I'd posted something vague about a hard time. She wrote for everyone to see. "Some people just aren't meant to keep a man." 4 likes. Mom, Aunt Sharon, 2 cousins, my own family laughing at my worst moment. I deleted the post, deleted the whole app, and told myself it didn't matter. Families are complicated. They didn't mean it. But Grandma called me every single day that first month after the divorce. Sometimes we talked about nothing. Sometimes she just listened to me cry. Sometimes she stayed quiet on the line so I'd know I wasn't alone. "It's not your fault," she said once, her voice steady. "Don't let anyone tell you it was." Lying there in the dark, 30 years of feeling like the extra piece no one wanted finally pressed down on me. The hurt was old and deep, but tonight it felt sharper, like a wound I'd ignored too long. If I kept staying quiet, kept pretending everything was fine, what would I lose when Grandma was gone? Not just her. I'd lose the last part of me that still hoped family could mean something real. I turned on my side. the sheets cold against my skin. Something inside me was shifting, slow and scary, like the moment before a patient's monitor starts screaming. I didn't know it yet, but in a few hours I would open a door I could never close again, and everything I thought I knew about my family was about to break wide open. 5 days before the party, at 10 p.m., I was finally in bed with a book, trying to let the day melt away. My apartment was dark except for the small lamp beside me. The voice message from Brooke still played in my head on a loop, but I kept telling myself to let it go. Just breathe, like I tell my patients when their hearts race too fast in the ICU. My phone buzzed on the pillow. I picked it up without thinking. The screen glowed bright in the quiet room. Brooke Harper added you to Real Family Only. I blinked. Read it again. Real Family Only. My thumb hovered, then tapped. The group chat opened. I scrolled up automatically, the way you do when you walk into a room late. And I kept scrolling, and scrolling. Created 8 years ago. Members: Mom, Brooke, Aunt Sharon, my 2 aunts from Michigan, 3 cousins, 8 people total. Everyone except Grandma. Everyone except me. In the corner of the screen a little number glowed, 912 unread messages. My hands started to shake. The most recent one, sent just 2 days ago, was Aunt Sharon complaining about her neighbor's dog. Normal stuff. No one had noticed I'd been added. No one had said a word. I scrolled all the way back to the very first message. 8 years ago. Aunt Sharon. Finally a place to talk without you-know-who seeing. Brooke replied right away. Charity case free zone. Mom wrote, girls don't be mean, but yeah, this is nice. The room tilted. I sat up straight, the book sliding off my lap onto the floor. They had a name for me. Charity case. And that was only message 1. 911 to go. I couldn't stop. The messages blurred at first, then hit like punches I couldn't block. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Plans for holidays I'd been told were small, just us. Photos from dinners and trips I'd never been invited to. Then I found the nickname thread. Brooke, new rule. We call her CC from now on. Aunt Sharon, CC. Brooke, charity case. Cousin Olivia, dead. Mom, that's terrible but also kind of accurate. Lol, kind of accurate. My own mother. I kept going, years flying past in the glowing screen. When I lost my first nursing job at 27 because of budget cuts, they celebrated. Aunt Sharon knew she couldn't hack it. Brooke, how long till she asks Mom for money? Mom, she won't. Too proud. That's the problem with her. Right after the chat started, when I began dating Ethan, Brooke wrote, OMG, CC has a boyfriend. Taking bets on how long this lasts. Aunt Sharon, I give it 3 years max. Cousin Olivia, optimistic. I say 2. They bet on my relationship like it was a game on TV. But the worst part, the part that made my stomach turn to ice, was when they found out I was getting married. Brooke, CC is engaged. Aunt Sharon, to who? Does he know what he's getting into? Mom, I'll be honest, I'm surprised. Never thought she'd find someone. Brooke, starting the divorce pool now. I got $75 on under 5 years. Aunt Sharon, I'll take 4. Mom, you girls are awful. Put me down for 4.5. My mother bet on my marriage failing. Tears ran down my face, hot and fast, but I didn't stop. At 2 a.m., I reached the divorce messages from 3 years ago, the week I told them Ethan had cheated. Brooke, guys, guess what? Aunt Sharon, what? Brooke, Cece's getting divorced. Aunt Sharon, no way. Finally, I knew it. Cousin Olivia, who won the bet? Aunt Sharon, 4 years and 8 months. Closest to my 4-year guess. Brooke, fine. But I was close with 5. Aunt Sharon, pay up ladies. $75 each. They had actually collected the money. Then it got colder. Mom, just got off the phone with her. She was crying. Aunt Sharon, she'll get over it. At least she doesn't have kids. One less grandchild to worry about. Brooke, silver lining. Cousin Olivia, honestly though, who would cheat on someone that boring? Brooke, right? Like I'm surprised he waited this long. 52 more messages followed. They picked apart my failed marriage, laughed about what I must have done wrong, and celebrated that I was alone. Not one single person asked if I was okay. Not one suggested reaching out. They just laughed and bet, and collected their winnings. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The tears dried on my cheeks. The hurt was still there, raw and deep, but underneath it something harder was forming. Something cold and clear, like the moment in the ICU when you know the patient isn't going to make it, and you still have to keep working. They had never seen me as family. Never. I stopped reading at 3:30 a.m., not because I was done, but because I knew exactly what I had to do. I went back to the beginning and started screenshotting every single message, every laugh, every bet. Methodical, like labeling patient charts at work. Folder Real Family Only, complete archive. While I worked, one conversation from 7 months ago made me pause. Brooke, Grandma's getting weird. She has this notebook she writes in constantly. Aunt Sharon, what kind of notebook? Brooke, IDK, some journal thing. I saw her writing names in it. Mom, she's 74. Probably just keeping track of meds or something. Brooke, I saw Cece's name in there like multiple times. Aunt Sharon, weird. Brooke, right? She's obsessed with her. It's gross. I read that exchange 3 times. Grandma had a notebook. She wrote down names. My name, many times. I remembered what she said at Grandpa's funeral, holding my hand. I keep track, honey. I always keep track. At 5:12 a.m., I finished. 912 messages, all saved. No one in the chat had noticed I was there. The last message was still from 2 days ago. Everyone was asleep, safe in their dreams. I opened a new text window, typed slowly. Thanks for the receipts, Lila. My finger hovered over send. The party was in 4 days. Grandma's 75th. Every single person in that chat would be there. I pressed send. Then I left the group. 5:15 a.m. My phone lit up like an alarm in the ICU when a heart stops. It vibrated so hard it slid across the nightstand. Brooke calling. I hit decline. It rang again instantly. Brooke again. Decline. Mom calling. Decline. The screen kept flashing, one after another. Texts poured in, the little bubbles stacking up fast. Brooke, Lila, please pick up, I'm begging you, Brooke. I was drunk when I added you. I swear I was trying to add our new cousin from Michigan and my finger slipped on the name list. Brooke, I swear it was an accident. Please, please, please. Can we talk? Mom, honey, whatever you read, it's not what it looks like, we were just venting. Every family does this. Aunt Sharon, Lila, don't make this a bigger deal than it needs to be, this is private family stuff. Brooke, we love you. You know that, right? Sisters joke around. Mom, please call me back. Let's talk like adults. Aunt Sharon, this is why we didn't include you. You're too sensitive. Too sensitive. The woman who bet money on my divorce called me too sensitive. My hands felt numb as I read them. In the ICU, I can hold a patient's hand while their family screams in the hallway. Stay steady when everything is falling apart. But right now my chest hurt like someone had cracked it open with a rib spreader. By 5:40, 82 messages had piled up. I turned the phone off. The sudden silence felt loud. I walked to the window in bare feet, the floor cold under me. Outside the sky was turning gray, dawn creeping in slow and quiet. I pressed my forehead to the glass and let the coolness sink in. Expose them? Post every screenshot on social media so the world could see? Forward them to every relative who wasn't in that chat? And watch it all burn? The old me would have done nothing. The nurse me, the one who fights for strangers every day, wanted to fight back. But Grandma's face flashed in my mind. Her 75th birthday. The backyard full of people who mattered to her. I wasn't going to ruin her day. No screaming, no public war, just the truth, at the right moment, in the right way. Quiet, clean, like closing a chart when the patient is finally stable. I set my alarm for 8 a.m., crawled back into bed, and for the first time in years I slept deep and dreamless. Like my body knew something inside me had finally decided to stand up straight. Later that same morning, still 5 days before the party, my doorbell rang. I opened it, and there stood Brooke, full makeup, designer bag clutched to her chest like a shield, eyes shiny with tears that looked almost real. Lila, please, can we talk? I stepped aside without a word and let her in. She sat on the very edge of my couch, like she was afraid the fabric might bite her. I'm so sorry, she started, voice soft and shaky. You have to believe me. That chat, it just got out of hand. We never meant for you to see any of it. The bets, the names. That was Aunt Sharon's idea mostly. I just went along. I was young, stupid. You were 23 when you started the divorce pool, I said quietly. And you did it again last year betting on whether I'd get promoted. She flinched like I'd slapped her. The tears stopped fast. Something harder flickered in her eyes. Calculation. The same look I see in families who lie about how long a patient has been sick. Okay, fine, she said, voice dropping lower. But you can't tell Grandma. She's fragile. Her heart. This could literally kill her, Lila. I almost laughed. A short, bitter sound. Now you care about Grandma's heart. I've been there every week for 12 years. You visited her twice last year. I have a business to run, she snapped. You have an Instagram account, I answered. We stared at each other. Sisters by blood, strangers by choice. The air in my small apartment felt thick, like the heavy quiet right before a code blue in the ICU. I'm going to the party, I said, keeping my voice even. Because Grandma invited me herself. What happens there, we'll see. You can't do this to the family, Brooke whispered, leaning forward. Please. We can fix this. Just delete the screenshots. Pretend you never saw it. I'm not doing anything to the family, I told her. I'm just done pretending I'm part of one that never wanted me. She stood up slowly, smoothing her skirt with shaking hands. At the door she turned back, eyes narrowed now. You know, this is why no one likes you. You always have to play the victim. And you always have to be the villain, I said. Guess that makes us even. She left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her like a final heartbeat on a monitor. I stood there alone, the apartment suddenly too quiet again. My hands were steady, but inside something was still breaking and healing all at once. I had 5 days left until the party. 5 days to carry 912 screenshots, and 12 years of invisible pain. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what would happen when the truth finally came out. The day arrived. I pulled up to Grandma's house in my navy blue cocktail dress, the one I'd bought after scrolling through Brooke's Instagram stories the night before to see what everyone else was wearing. My heart beat steady, the same rhythm I count during a code 30 compressions. 2 breaths. Don't stop. The backyard was already full of white chairs and string lights that swayed gently in the warm breeze. Photographers moved like shadows between the guests. The moment I stepped through the gate, Mom's face went pale. She grabbed Brooke's arm. Aunt Sharon spilled red wine down her sleeve and didn't even notice. They had hoped I wouldn't show. I saw it in their eyes. Lila. Mom recovered first, forcing a plastic smile. You made it. We weren't sure. With your crazy work schedule, Grandma invited me herself, I said quietly, meeting her eyes. I told her I'd be here. Of course she did. Mom replied, voice too bright. Of course. For the next 2 hours I became invisible again. When the group photos started, Mom waved me to the back row. Better lighting up front for the main family, honey. You understand, right? Her smile never reached her eyes. Servers with trays of appetizers walked straight past me every single time, like I wasn't even standing there. When guests asked who I was, Brooke jumped in before I could speak. Oh, just a cousin from the other side. Her own sister. The words landed like a cold IV needle sliding into a vein that had already been poked too many times. The photographer gathered everyone for the big family portrait. Mom positioned people carefully, herself right next to Grandma, Brooke on the other side, Aunt Sharon beside them. Cousins clustered close. Neela, honey, can you maybe stand behind? You're tall, it balances the shot. I moved to the back, half hidden behind Cousin Olivia's boyfriend. One of my great aunts, someone who had never been in that chat, leaned over and whispered, Aren't you Karen's older daughter? The nurse who works those long shifts at the hospital? Yes, I answered softly. Why are you all the way back here? You should be up front with your mother and sister. Before I could answer, Grandma's voice cut through the chatter. Quiet but clear. The way she used to call me when I was little and scared of the dark. Lila, sweetheart, come sit with me for a moment. Mom's smile flickered and died for half a second. Brooke's jaw tightened so hard I saw the muscle jump. I walked forward on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Grandma took my hand, squeezed it tight, her skin paper thin but warm. She pulled me close and whispered right against my ear, Stay until the end tonight. Grandma has something to say. Her eyes locked on mine, sharp, knowing, like she could see every one of those 912 screenshots still saved on my phone. My heart pounded harder than it ever did during a 12-hour shift. She knew. Somehow she knew everything. The humiliation built slow and steady after that. 2 hours in, Brooke clinked a glass and stepped up to the portable microphone. 75 guests turned to watch. The photographer dropped to one knee for the perfect angle. Brooke dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief she must have practiced with. Hi everyone. I just want to say a few words about my amazing grandmother. She spoke for 5 full minutes, voice trembling beautifully, talking about childhood baking lessons, how Grandma had been there through everything. I'm so grateful to be the granddaughter who's been by your side all these years. I love you, Grandma. Applause rose like a wave. Aunt Sharon wiped real tears. Mom beamed like she'd won something. I stood in the back, invisible again, doing the math in my head. Brooke had visited Grandma maybe 12 times in 5 years. I had been there every single week, every doctor appointment, every 3 a.m. phone call, every lonely evening. But Brooke had 38,000 followers and knew exactly how to perform for a camera. A distant cousin I barely knew turned to me. Aren't you going to say something too? Before I could open my mouth, Brooke appeared at my elbow, smiling that same bright smile. Oh, Lila is so busy with her nursing job in the ICU. She doesn't really have time for speeches. You know how it is, saving lives every day, no time for family moments. She laughed lightly. A few people chuckled along. Mom nodded like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I felt the weight of 75 pairs of eyes on me. Some curious, most already turning away. A week ago I would have smiled, nodded, and disappeared into the background like always. But I had 912 reasons not to. I kept my voice even. That's okay. Grandma knows who's actually been there. Brooke's smile froze mid-laugh. Across the lawn, Grandma caught my eye and nodded once, almost too small to see. Not yet, that nod said. But soon. The party was starting to wind down. Guests were gathering coats and saying goodbyes. Then Grandma stood up slowly, moving like every one of her 75 years weighed on her. She tapped her glass with a spoon. The clear ring cut through the chatter. "Everyone, please stay just a moment longer." 75 people went still. Grandma rarely spoke in front of crowds. When she did, they listened. Grandma stood slowly, her small frame steady despite the years. She tapped her glass with a spoon once more, the clear ring cutting through the fading chatter like a heartbeat on a monitor. 75 people went completely still. Grandma rarely spoke in front of a crowd. When she did, every single person listened. "It's my 75th birthday," she said, her voice warm but strong, carrying across the whole backyard. An old woman's allowed to make a speech. A few polite laughs rose and died fast. My mother's shoulders dropped a little, like she thought the danger had passed. "I want to talk about family," Grandma went on, "about what it really means. Not the pictures you post, not the words you say when people are watching. The real thing." Brooke straightened her dress, lips already curving into that practiced smile, ready for the praise she always got. "Specifically," Grandma said, her eyes moving slowly across every face, "I want to talk about the person who's actually been there for me these past 12 years. The air changed. It felt colder, heavier, like the moment right before a patient's blood pressure drops and every alarm starts screaming. I felt it in my chest. Mom's face went gray. Brooke's hand froze halfway to her hair. Aunt Sharon gripped her wine glass so tight I thought it might crack. Someone who drove me to every single cardiology appointment when my heart started failing. Grandma continued, voice clear and calm, even when it was pouring rain, or she had just finished a 12-hour night shift. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Someone who came every Sunday to clean my house while I napped, who made me soup when I couldn't eat, who sat beside me through the long nights when I was scared and couldn't sleep. Grandma turned and looked straight at me. Her eyes were soft but sharp, like she saw every lonely year I had carried alone. "Lila, sweetheart, come here." My legs moved before my brain caught up. The crowd parted without a word. I walked forward on feet that didn't feel like mine. Grandma took both my hands in hers. Her skin was thin and warm, the same hands that had held mine at the father-daughter dance when I was 13. She squeezed gently. "This is my granddaughter," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "My real family." Brooke stepped forward fast. "Grandma, that's so sweet, but we're all—" "I'm not finished." Grandma's voice stayed quiet, but it cut like a scalpel. Brooke sat down hard, face white. Grandma reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out a small leather notebook. Brown, worn, edges soft from years of use. I had seen it on her nightstand 100 times and never guessed what was inside. "I've been keeping records," she said simply. "For 12 years. Everything. And tonight I'm going to share some of it." She opened the notebook with steady hands. The pages rustled in the sudden silence. March 15, 2018. Lila drove me to my cardiology appointment. Brooke said she was too busy with work. She turned the page. August 22, 2019. Lila cleaned my house, did my laundry, made me soup. Karen promised to visit but canceled at the last minute. Mom made a small sound, like she'd been punched. January 5, 2021. I fell on the stairs. Lila arrived in 20 minutes and stayed all night. Brooke posted pictures of a spa day that same afternoon. Brooke's mouth opened, but no words came out. September 17, 2023. Grandma's voice grew quieter, heavier. Lila's divorce was finalized. I called her every single day for a month. Her own mother didn't call once. My mother stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. Tears burned behind my eyes, but they weren't from pain this time. In the ICU, I fight to keep hearts beating. Tonight, Grandma was fighting for mine, and it felt like the first real breath I had taken in years. 12 years of entries, Grandma said, closing the notebook with a soft snap. I wrote down every visit, every absence, every excuse. I know who showed up, and I know who didn't. The backyard was so quiet I could hear the string lights humming overhead. People were staring at Brooke, at Mom, at Aunt Sharon. Looks that had changed from friendly to something sharp and uncomfortable. Whispers started, small and growing. "Grandma," Brooke's voice cracked. "You don't understand. Lila, she's not—" "Sit down, Brooke. It wasn't a request." Brooke dropped back into her chair like her legs had given out. Mom finally found her voice, thin and shaky. Mom, please. There's been a misunderstanding. We love Lila. We express it differently. Grandma looked at her daughter for a long moment, eyes steady and sad. Do you? Is that what you call it? The silence stretched tight, ready to snap. Grandma took a slow breath. There's something else. Something I learned 7 months ago. She looked toward the back of the crowd. Thomas, would you please explain? Uncle Thomas, Aunt Sharon's husband, rose slowly from his chair, adjusting his tie with hands that weren't quite steady. Aunt Sharon grabbed his arm, whispering fast, but he gently pulled away. Uncle Thomas rose slowly, adjusting his tie with fingers that weren't quite steady. Aunt Sharon grabbed his arm, nails digging in so hard I saw the skin whiten. Thomas, what are you doing? She hissed, voice low and frantic like families begging me in the ICU not to tell them the worst. Sit down right now. He looked at her for a long beat, eyes heavy with something tired and final. I'm doing the right thing, Sharon. Finally. He turned to face the 75 guests, voice clear and measured, the way a doctor delivers news that changes everything. 7 months ago I accidentally saw a group chat on my wife's phone. It was called Real Family Only. I started reading, and I couldn't stop. Sharon's face drained of color. She whispered again, desperate, Thomas, please. I read 8 years of messages, he went on, steady as a heartbeat monitor, mocking Lila, calling her charity case, betting money on how long her marriage would last, celebrating when it ended, laughing at her pain like it was entertainment. Gasps rolled through the crowd like a wave crashing. Head snapped toward Sharon. Mom, Brooke, eyes wide, mouths open. My own pulse thundered in my ears, the same rush I feel when a patient codes and every second counts. But this time the life on the line was mine. I told Evelyn everything that same night, Thomas said, looking straight at Grandma. I took screenshots and showed her. She asked for them all. Grandma nodded once, her grip on my hand never loosening. I've known for 7 months. I read every one of those 912 messages. Brooke shot to her feet so fast her chair scraped loud across the stone. That was private. You had no right. Private. Grandma's voice stayed soft but cut like a fresh scalpel. 912 messages calling my granddaughter the charity case. Starting a divorce pool while she was still crying on the phone to me every night. Collecting money when her marriage fell apart. My own daughter writing she was relieved Layla had no children. One less grandchild to worry about. Those were your exact words, Karen. Mom's knees buckled. She sank into her chair, sobbing openly now, hands covering her face. Mom, I didn't mean, we were just venting. Venting? Grandma's eyes never left her daughter. That's what you call 8 years of stabbing your own child in the back. The backyard went so quiet I could hear my own breathing, ragged and shallow. Guests shifted, some staring in horror, others looking away like they'd seen something they could never forget. I stood there, Grandma's warm hand anchoring me. 12 years of invisible pain finally dragged into the light. The hurt still burned, raw and deep, but underneath it something stronger was rising, like the moment a patient stabilizes after a code and you know they're going to make it. There's more, Grandma said. She reached into her other pocket and pulled out a folded document. 4 months ago I had Thomas update my will. Aunt Sharon jumped up. You did what? I'm her attorney, Thomas answered flatly. And more importantly, I'm family who actually shows up. Brooke lunged forward a step, voice cracking. Grandma, you can't just change everything like this. I am 75 years old, Grandma cut in, calm and final. Sound mind, clear heart. This is my decision. She unfolded the paper and read it aloud, loud enough for every ear in the yard. My house. This house will go to my granddaughter Lila Reynolds. She has cared for it, cleaned it and filled it with love for 12 years. She has earned it. The crowd murmured loud now, heads turning. Brooke looked like she'd been slapped. The remaining assets will be divided equally among my children and grandchildren, as is fair. Grandma looked straight at my mother. This isn't punishment, Karen. It's balance. Lila gave 12 years of her life to this family without ever asking for a single thing in return. The least I can do is make sure she's not left with nothing. This is insane. Aunt Sharon hissed through clenched teeth. Lila isn't even— Not really what? Grandma's voice dropped to ice. Not really family? Is that what you were going to say? In front of all these people? Sharon's mouth snapped shut. Lila is my granddaughter, my blood. And far more importantly, she showed up every single time I needed her. Grandma turned to the crowd, still holding my hand tight. That's what family means. Not secret group chats. Not pretty Instagram posts. Not betting pools on someone else's heartbreak. She carefully refolded the document. I've made my decision. It's legal. It's done. I stepped forward, gently letting go of Grandma's hand. My legs felt steady now, the same way they do after a long code in the ICU when the patient's heart finally beats on its own again. 12 years of staying quiet, of swallowing every hurt, rose up inside me. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry in front of them. Not anymore. I'm not going to yell, I said, my voice calm and clear, carrying across the quiet yard. I'm not going to call anyone names. That's not who I am. Brooke wiped her eyes fast, stepping closer. Lila, please, we can fix this. Just talk to us. We're family. I looked straight at her. I have 912 screenshots, Brooke. Every message, every bet, every laugh at my divorce. There's nothing left to fix. She flinched like I'd hit her. Mom made a small choking sound, still sitting with her hands over her mouth. I kept going, slow and steady. For 8 years you had a chat called Real Family Only. You left me out. You mocked me. You put money on my marriage ending, and cheered when it did. You said I was boring. You said I was too much work. You said I wasn't really family. Mom finally whispered, "Honey, we didn't mean it like that. We were just venting. Sisters fight. Families say things." I turned to her. "You bet 4.5 years on my divorce, Mom. You wrote that you were relieved I had no kids. One less grandchild to worry about. While I was crying on the phone to Grandma every night, you were collecting money with the others. That's not venting. That's choosing to hurt me on purpose." Aunt Sharon started to speak, but I raised my hand just a little. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm just done." The word hung in the air like the last beep on a monitor when everything goes flat. "I'm not cutting you off," I said softly, looking at each of them. Brooke, Mom, Aunt Sharon, the cousins who had joined in. You decided 8 years ago that I wasn't part of your real family. I'm simply agreeing with your choice. From now on I'll stay on my side of that line. You stay on yours. Silence pressed down so hard I could hear the wind in the string lights. I turned to the guests, to the cousins who had never been in that chat, to Grandma's old friends and neighbors who had watched me come and go for years. That's all I have to say. Thank you for coming to celebrate Grandma's birthday. I walked back to Grandma's side. She took my hand again, squeezed it tight, and whispered so only I could hear. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. So very proud." For the first time in a very long time, I felt proud of me too. The party ended in heavy silence. Guests gathered their things quickly, eyes on the ground, avoiding my mother and Brooke. Small groups formed near the gate, whispering, shaking their heads. No one said goodbye to them. No one hugged them. The string lights still glowed, but the backyard felt cold and empty now. I stayed beside Grandma until the last car drove away. She didn't say anything more. She didn't have to. 12 years of showing up had finally spoken louder than any group chat ever could. The backyard stayed silent long after my last words faded. No one clapped. No one moved at first. Guests picked up their bags and coats, eyes down, slipping away in small groups. No one stopped to hug Mom or Brooke. No one said the usual great party things. The string lights still twinkled overhead, but the warmth had gone out of the air. It felt like the moment after a patient flatlines, and the room goes still. Everything important has already happened. I stayed right beside Grandma until the last car pulled out of the driveway. She squeezed my hand one more time, her eyes shining with quiet strength. "You did good, sweetheart. Real good." That night I drove home in the dark. The city lights blurring through tears I finally let fall. 12 years of carrying the weight alone, and now the weight was gone. It hurt, but it was the clean kind of hurt, like pulling out a splinter that had been buried too deep. 5 months have passed since that day. I'm sitting here now in Grandma's living room. My living room too. At least for now. She insisted I move into the guest room until I decide to kick the bucket. Her words, not mine. She's out in the garden right now. Notebook open on her lap. Pen scratching away like always. Still keeping track. Still writing down who shows up and who doesn't. I didn't lose my family that day. I lost the lie I had been telling myself for 30 years. The lie that blood alone made us family. That if I just kept showing up and staying quiet, one day they would see me. They never did, but Grandma did. She always did. In the ICU I watch hearts stop and start again every single day. I've learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let something go so the right thing can begin. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you finally get to open or close yourself. For the first time in my life, I feel light, free, like I can breathe without waiting for the next cut. I still work my long shifts, still fight for strangers who need me. But now when I come home, there's a house that feels like love instead of silence. There's a grandmother who writes my name with pride instead of pity. If you're listening and you're carrying the same kind of hurt, the kind that comes from people who should love you but choose not to, remember this: you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. You can walk away, you can choose you. And sometimes, the family you need is the one that was quietly choosing you all along. Reaching the end of this story with me means you've walked every step of that long invisible road and stood in the light when the truth finally broke through. There's a raw depth here, the kind of truth that only surfaces when someone refuses to stay small anymore, and an intensity that stays with you because it's real, because it's lived. If these words have stirred something deep in your own heart, if they've reminded you that showing up quietly can still change everything, then I'd be so grateful if you liked this and subscribed. That way we stay connected, sharing more stories like this, the ones that heal even while they hurt, the ones that prove you're never truly alone when you choose yourself. Thank you for being here until the very last word. Take care of your own heart out there.